those amazing experiments, you know, where people are being stopped in a university square, asked for directions. The moment they're chatting to someone, a door's brought between them, they swap the person asking for directions with someone who's of a different sex, with a beard, much taller, much shorter, and people only notice half the time or something like that. It's incredible change blindness when you see it.
It was just fun in the sense that it was a serious take on a lot of subjects which many people don't consider serious.
Yeah, sort of blue-sky thinking.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
Sense, yeah.
And this sort of very incisive sort of analysis of these things, which you don't normally run into.
Other methods like meditation, memory techniques have been done for extremely long time, and they're fairly uncontroversial, unless you try to use your memorization technique to win at blackjack in Las Vegas, of course. Others, like drugs, are totally uncontroversial when it's a morning cup of tea. But if I take a modafinil, then people get a bit worried. What about the smart drugs? What about the competitive abilities I get from taking a smart drug? It's interesting to notice that people rarely complain about some students drinking coffee.
I really like the first two talks by Rampage and David Kirby.
That's right.
So the first one was about classic science literature, Jules Verne versus H.G. Wells, and I've read not everything by both of them, but a couple of things by each of them, so I could really relate to that, and it was really interesting to see somebody else's perspective on those two authors, actually. So I definitely picked up on things I don't think I picked up on when I was reading them for myself.
Tony Stark in Iron Man is a maverick scientist hero, I would suggest. Bruce Banner, the Hulk again. And it's been interesting that these superheroes have been resuscitated recently, and maybe they're part of this new Vernian wave. John Nash in A Beautiful Mind, he's obviously a maverick hero, not so much working against the system as working against his own sort of consciousness.
I really liked the fact that he was then making the comparison the other way and comparing real science to science fiction and trying to identify kind of stories now.
As you'll know, you can get very good results in ImageNet, sort of, human comparable for classification. And you can train that up on a single desktop machine with a single state-of-the-art GPU in a few weeks. I first worked on neural nets about 1990 on a state-of-the-art desktop machine at the time, and it was a 486, and I spent a lot of time waiting for things. So as a little thought experiment, I asked myself, if I just compare how many megaflops that 486 has compared to something like a Titan Z or something graphics card today, and sort of just do the math on how long would it take, right? So if I sort of do Back to the Future style and take my algorithm today that runs on desktop machine in 3.5 weeks, go back to 1990 and give it to myself, I'm going to be waiting a long time. So how long am I going to be waiting? After 250,000 years, you still have another 20 millennia to go. So I feel kind of sorry for people who were trying to do computer vision back in the 90s, because even the state-of-the-art algorithms today were completely unusable. Even if you ran it on a supercomputer back in 1990, a current algorithm that runs on a desktop, you're looking at 5 centuries of computation just to train the model. So it makes a big difference, and it's really important. But I think there are two important questions here. One is about how, the amount of compute. Another one is about the amount of data.
I came to the CDT festival and it was amazing. There were some great talks, really interesting talks about artificial intelligence and science fiction, and how science affects fiction and fiction is brought into science.
Science fiction is always there as a kind of inspiration of what might be possible. Robots that can move around and effortlessly know where they are is just something that's usually assumed to be, a straightforward thing in most science fiction. Actually trying to build things like that has proven to be incredibly difficult, I think. But
My favourite talk was by Andy Sandberg and Dave Kirby. Andy Sandberg he seemed very knowledgeable about this field, and he had a really great way of presenting as well. It's quite unique.
Right?
Yes, Andy Sandberg was the futurist.
It appeared that definitions of intelligence, first of all, strongly depend on the field of research. For example, for psychologists, intelligence is not the same as for computer scientists or for neurobiologists. And I particularly like the quotation used in this paper as well by Sternberg, who said that viewed narrowly, there seem to be almost as many definitions of intelligence as there were experts asked to define.
Books, shops, libraries, everything runs through one data infrastructure, and this is not passive like a wire of copper. It's looking back at us in expectations, trying to guess our intentions, to monetize, to infer, to steer. That's new. That is such a fundamentally new thing. We don't know how a single data infrastructure of this type is going to shape public opinion and democracy and everything else.
No, I mean, I guess he raised a lot of points about what could happen in the future and sort of, I don't know, it was nice to get sort of a more philosophical viewpoint rather than the usual science fiction.
Yes, we have a kind of an experience we've mapped out where things are coming and there are audio cues where you look around and you're seeing things at different times, but that doesn't ever stop you from looking up to the surface or looking down to the bottom or looking over your shoulder and seeing other things going on.